Welcome to this explainer on the Beaufort County School District Behavior Management Specialist role. Today, we're really unpacking how a modern school system shifts from simply reacting to student behavior to actively teaching and supporting it. It's a huge shift. So let's explore the official operating manual and turn this comprehensive blueprint into a clear, actionable guide that you can actually use. Right off the bat, the handbook grounds this entire position in one very specific foundational philosophy. Students are not their behavior. This quote from Ruby K. Payne perfectly establishes the empathetic, strengths-based approach that is expected of every single BMS from day one. You know, the goal here isn't to label kids. It's to help them build the inner strength and the practical skills they need to succeed. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda for today. We'll be covering, first, the BMS role defined. Second, navigating the MTSS tiers. Third, district data system workflows. Fourth, collaborative meetings and IEPs. And finally, number 5, real-world BMS scenarios. Let's jump right into Section 1, the BMS role defined. To really be successful as a BMS, you have to wear a few very specific hats. You are an interventionist, a case manager, and a school-based leader for behavior support. It's absolutely crucial to establish clear boundaries here. Your primary focus is targeted intervention and teaching replacement skills, stuff like running small groups and handling de-escalation. What a BMS does not do is replace administrators. You are not there to hand out discipline or act as a permanent hall monitor. To make this all work, the district outlines several core non-negotiables. Obviously, safety always comes first, and your true priority is your Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. But I want to really highlight two things here: fidelity and visible and proactive. Fidelity just means delivering the intervention exactly as it was planned. And visibility? Well, think about it. Preventing a scuffle during a chaotic hallway transition preserves a student's dignity far better than responding to an outburst after the fact. It's all about being proactive. Moving right along to Section 2, navigating the MTSS tiers. So this is the structural framework where behavior and attendance are seamlessly integrated. Welcome to the alphabet soup of education, right? MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered System of Supports. In Beaufort County, PBIS, which is Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, forms the universal Tier 1 foundation for everyone. The BMS, however, primarily operates at Tier 2 for targeted small groups and Tier 3 for those really intensive individualized interventions. And this brilliantly illustrates what proactive support looks like on a daily schedule. Whether you're on the elementary or secondary timeline, your day really revolves around hotspots. A BMS has got to be highly visible during arrival, midday lunch, transitions, and dismissal. Being a calm, predictable presence during those unstructured times prevents so many minor issues from ever escalating. Then, the time in between those hotspots? That's what you utilize for your targeted intervention sessions. Okay, on to Section 3, district data system workflows. A massive part of this role is utilizing the right tool for the right job. Because let's face it, documentation isn't just administrative busy work. It is literally how a student's needs are communicated across the entire school. So we need to explicitly separate these systems to avoid duplicating efforts. Branching Minds is strictly for your MTSS plans and progress monitoring. Simply Discipline, that's for reviewing referrals and tracking incident patterns. And PowerSchool remains the official source of truth for attendance. Let's lock in this mental model because it is super important. The simplest rule to remember is this: discipline equals simple discipline, support equals branching minds, attendance equals PowerSchool. So if you're logging a check-in to build a student's self-regulation, that goes in branching minds. If you need to figure out why a student was suspended last week so you can better support them today, you check simple discipline. Make sense? That brings us to Section 4, collaborative meetings and IEPs. As a BMS, you are a vital part of the team during MTSS, 504, and IEP problem-solving meetings. But you literally can't just show up and wing it with a few anecdotes. Before you even sit down at that table, the handbook requires specific prep work. You need to review the active plan and branching minds, update the progress monitoring trends, verify intervention fidelity, and check the simple discipline and attendance data. You are there to be the voice of the data-informed history. Now, this is an absolutely crucial administrative boundary to keep in mind. In your MTSS meetings, as the BMS, you're actively updating those intervention plans directly within branching minds. However, for IEP and 504 meetings, you do not independently write formal special education documents. Your job is to provide the data and your observations, and then the case manager will update the official ed plan system. Finally, we hit Section 5, Real-World BMS Scenarios. All right, let's put all this theory into actual practice. We're going to walk through 3 highly practical case studies. Scenario 1 is check-in/checkout, or CICO. This is your classic Tier 2 targeted intervention, typically used for a student exhibiting repeated minor behavioral issues. It provides them with structured, daily adult feedback that is tied directly to school-wide expectations. Let's move to how this builds day by day. To implement CICO effectively, step 1 is creating an individual behavior goal in branching minds. Keep in mind, even if you're running a small group, those goals absolutely must be individualized. Step 2, you provide those brief daily check-ins and checkouts. And step 3, you log those daily scores accurately right from your to-do list. But hey, what happens when things just aren't clicking? Scenario 2 is dealing with a failing intervention. Imagine a situation where progress monitoring scores remain totally flat and well below the goal line for 3 solid weeks. Beaufort County has very strict decision rules for this. You do not let a plan sit unchanged when the data is screaming that it isn't working. You do not wait for the cycle to end before you do something about it. Instead, when you see that flat line, the handbook prompts 4 crucial questions you've got to ask. 1, was the intervention actually delivered with fidelity? 2, is the student responding to it at all? 3, do we need to change, intensify, or maybe fade the plan? And 4, what are the data-driven next steps? Remember, flat data means it is time to step up, act, and revise the strategy. And finally, Scenario 3, Tier 3 de-escalation and re-entry. This is high stakes, folks. We are talking about a student in crisis who requires an intensive CPI-aligned safety and de-escalation response. The handbook is incredibly explicit about the sequence you follow here. First, regulate yourself. You have to keep a calm tone and a neutral body language to avoid getting sucked into a power struggle. Second, provide clear choices and allow the student time and space. But honestly, the most important part is step 3. After the situation is totally stable, you must debrief and actively teach the replacement behavior for next time. De-escalation isn't just about stopping the immediate crisis, it's about learning for the future. Which really brings us to our closing thought for today. When looking at the everyday realities of a behavior management specialist, you have to ask yourself, are we just reacting to behavior, or are we actively building the inner strength for a student to succeed? By utilizing these tools, systems, and empathetic frameworks we just talked about, this role truly has the power to fundamentally change a student's trajectory. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.